Hi guys, welcome to the Team Biscuit Studios YouTube channel. It's really good to have you here. Before we begin, it would be really cool if you could subscribe to this channel. At the point of this video going out, there's not very many subscribers because it is quite a new channel. And so I really need all the help I can get right now to start building it up and hopefully build a nice little community on here. That would be really cool. So today I just want to talk to you a little bit about the latest music video that we worked on, a song called Robots by a band called The Lost Trades. I make up 1/3 of The Lost Trades as it happens, so I wasn't able to spend much time behind the camera on this one, which is why I enlisted the help of a good friend of mine, Sam Irving, who's a great videographer and a really top bloke. He really knows what he's doing, and I was really glad to have him on board. I'll leave a link to Sam's website in the description of this video so you can check out what he does. So this is one of the first songs that we worked on when we formed as a band a couple of years ago, and I had lots of ideas for the video even back then. So I've had a couple of years with this idea sort of bubbling around in my head. So by the time it actually came to make the video, it was pretty much fully formed, and I knew that this was going to be far more technical, far more complicated than any of the videos I've made to date. So I knew I had to be super prepared. So generally when I make a video, I do write out a shot list of sorts, but I like to keep things fairly open on the day so that there's a little bit of room for manoeuvre and for trying out new ideas that come on the fly. But for this one, you know, it was pretty technical, pretty complicated. So I wrote a narrative, kind of a screenplay, I guess. I sent it off to Sam, and Sam created the shot list from that. Which really helped out on the day because it meant that we could work our way through the shot list, and then we know we have everything that we need. But it gave us a few more windows in which to kind of try out different things, which I was really glad about, because on the day Sam bought a drone with him, which is something I hadn't really sort of written into the narrative. But we had a little bit of time to sort of mess around with that, and I'm really glad we did because we ended up using those drone shots, and they really added to the story. So good one, Sam. But before we could begin any of this, I had to build a robot. All of my music videos are created on a really, really small budget, a budget of pretty much nothing, and this one was no exception. I used an old tub of Meccano, which I used to build it, and I also used some parts from a helping hand kit, which is one of those little kits that you use for soldering and stuff with a magnifying glass and a little clamp and stuff, you know. It's got movable joints, and so I took the joints from those and combined those with the Meccano and created what I thought was a pretty good robot. You know, it served its purpose. I knew I wasn't going to be able to create something really, really super high tech and slick, you know, and I kind of didn't want that anyway. I wanted it to look a little bit homegrown, and I think I achieved that with what I had. So it took about 7.5 hours to build, and then I had to begin to try and animate with it. So it wasn't the easiest thing I've ever animated with, because of what it was made from. It was pretty heavy, pretty clunky, and it was pretty difficult to get it working to begin with. But I persevered, and after a while it started to get a bit smoother, and I began to understand the limitations of what I'd built, and sort of embrace those a little bit and use those to my advantage. So in the end, I managed to get some sequences that I was pretty happy with. The first time you see the robot in the video, I wanted it to be a kind of dramatic sort of first impressions, you know, brief glimpses of the robot's anatomy, the camera sort of panning up or panning across, you know, real quick sort of glimpses. And in order to achieve that, I wanted to have a spotlight effect on it, but I don't really have spotlights. So in the end, I used a household reading light, and I created, using a toilet roll tube and gaffer tape, I kind of created like a cover for it, which would sort of concentrate the light in a thinner sort of beam, and I used that as the spotlight, and it actually worked out pretty well. So if you don't have the equipment to achieve the kind of look that you're going for, then make something, you know, just be creative and resourceful and find a way. You know, that's how I make all my videos. I don't have a lot of money, and the limitations have sort of forced me to be a bit more creative when it comes to achieving the look that I'm trying to go for, which can be great. You know, it pushes you to be creative. And I guess that's why most of my videos have kind of got sort of homegrown sort of quality to them, you know, which I kind of like. It's kind of become my signature, I guess. So then it was time to start thinking about locations. Sam came up with the first location. I'd never been there before, but it's a place called Farley Downs Sidings, near Bath. And I believe it used to be a place where they would sort out ammunition and transport it 2.5 miles underground via a train track to an army camp somewhere down the line. It was a pretty spooky place, completely abandoned, filled with graffiti and broken windows and these little rooms off to each side and stuff. But it was so atmospheric. It was amazing, it was the perfect place really to start the video. The second location was literally 5 minutes from where I live. It's an old slaughterhouse, which again is just abandoned and left to ruin. So what I was going for was a post-apocalyptic feel, and so I wanted locations that sort of showed urban decay and sort of signs of nature taking over, and this second location was perfect for that because there was like ivy growing through the windows and that kind of thing. Just looked great. The first thing we did was went out and scouted these locations out with the objective of taking some shots, some static shots and some tracking shots to which I could animate against. I took along what I had already animated so that we could sort of like work out the angles that we wanted the camera to be at in order to make it look right. And so we spent the day doing that. And then I brought the footage back and added the animations onto the top of it, and it looked pretty good. It was a bit of a challenge lighting and color grading the animation so that it looked a part of the scenery. That was quite hard, but I think I did pretty good. Considering my knowledge of color grading at that point was pretty limited. But at that point, I knew it was going to work out pretty well. So the next thing I did was I grabbed Phil for a couple of hours and filmed him in front of a green screen. I wanted just his head and his hands playing the guitar, which I would then put on top of the robot's faceplate and chest plate. Phil's no stranger to me putting him in front of a green screen and asking him to do weird stuff. He's learnt to sort of roll with it with me now, and I guess that means he's got a lot of trust in me, which is lovely, and so he should, because he's my best mate. So, So once I had that, I sort of brought that back again, and then started piecing all that together with the animation, and it was looking really good. And then the day of the shoot came around, so I sent out the narrative to everyone so that everybody knew what was going on and what was expected of them on the day. On the day of shooting, we brought along Anna, or Badger, as she likes to be called. Anna's a photographer, so it was good to have her along, just as a little bit of an extra, someone to help Sam out with the DP stuff. And she got to use the clapperboard, which she was quite excited about. And Badger also took some of the behind the scenes footage that you're looking at now. And for the second location, Ed Dowedeswell came along and did some BTS stuff too. Is that right? Continuity. Phil couldn't make it along to the location shoots, unfortunately, which was a bit of a shame because I knew he would have really enjoyed it. And Phil's a really great idea guy as well, so it would have been great to have had him there. But it wasn't to be. So we had to make do without him. But it was okay. So we turned up at the first location, got there. Tammy had not seen it before. And when we got there, we sort of took her down this tunnel into this dark, dingy, pitch black, scary place, and she looked up and said, "Oh, I really struggle with being in enclosed spaces." And we were like, okay, right. Oops. I guess she didn't really know what to expect. So Sam and I sort of went down, we set up all the lights, we did everything that we could do before really shooting anything, because obviously we didn't want to expose her to something that would make her uncomfortable for too long. They say you need to look after your talent, so that's kind of what we did. We didn't want her uncomfortable on the day, but she did really well actually. I think when she got used to it, she just cracked on, and she was a real soldier. So, and I think she actually enjoyed it secretly, crawling around in the dirt and stuff. But that all went well, and like I said, Sam brought along his drone, so we had a little bit of extra time just to sort of do some drone shots and see if we could get anything extra that might come in useful, which it did. Sam was really great to work with as well. He's really good at following direction, but he's also really good at sort of pointing out, if some of the shots I wanted just weren't practical or doable with the equipment that we had or the time that we had, then Sam was really good at sort of coming up with an alternative. So after we finished at the first location, we shot off to the next one. and film the other bits. So we had to make sure that we shot all the outside stuff first when we got to the second location, because we were quite conscious of the time and losing light. So we had to make sure we got all that stuff first. And also it was a really windy day, so Sam was sort of fighting the wind a little bit with the drone on the second location, because it was getting quite blustery at that point. So it took us a little while to get those shots, but we got them in the end. And I have to say, having that shot list was really useful, because it meant that we could tick everything off, and we knew that we hadn't missed anything. As it turned out, and then it was entirely my fault. There was a couple of bits that I hadn't really sort of put into the narration, or had sort of changed in my mind since I'd written it. So I did have to go back and get a couple of little B-roll shots here and there, and some background shots for the animation. But that wasn't really a problem, because like I said, it was 5 minutes down the road from me. So all in all, I think it took us about eight hours, something like that, to shoot the whole thing on that day. We were pretty exhausted by the end of it. By this point, we'd been running up and down stairs and slopes, and getting up and crouching down, and then getting up again, and then running again, and doing all this stuff.
I'm gonna need one more, sorry.
And there's a scene where you see Tammy and I run into the second location, into the building, and we stop briefly in front of the camera and then just move off camera. And that's not me acting exhausted. That is me genuinely shattered. It was on this day that I began to realise just how old I am, and how creaky I'm getting. So I'm probably not going to be acting in any action films anytime soon. But generally we were really happy with the day. We were very tired, but we knew that we'd done a pretty good job. And by the time we wrapped up, we were really chuffed with ourselves. We'd achieved so much in that one day. And again, that's because of we were super organised when we started out. So if we hadn't been, I don't think we would have achieved that at all. So once everything was shot, it was a matter of just bringing everything back into my studio and editing. And I learned so much about the editing process with this video in particular. Things like masking, not only the swear words that I had to mask out here and there on the walls, but when we turned up to shoot in the first location, there was this huge caravan in the background. At the time we were like, oh, that caravan's there. That means we can't really use those shots where, we're looking out from the tunnel, because that's there. And at the time we kind of justified it. We said, well, maybe it could be just an abandoned caravan, and, it'll be all right, But when I was editing it all together, it just didn't look right, It really bothered me. So I thought I'd have a go at masking it out. And it actually worked pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the result. It's a very quick shot anyway, and I think if it's there, you can probably see it, But for what we needed, it worked great. I was really chuffed with it. For the middle eight part of the song, originally I'd planned to have this kind of sort of dreamy, almost ethereal kind of scene on a beach. It was supposed to represent a false reality that the robots created, in which to kind of communicate with Tam's and I's characters. But it was so difficult to kind of get all of our diaries to kind of work together, and also waiting for a day when the weather conditions would be just right for what we needed to do. And in the end, it was just proven to be too difficult, and we were running out of time. That the single release was coming up, so I had to rethink that a little bit. So I figured, instead of this kind of this sort of false reality that looks kind of real, let's create a false reality that looks not real at all. So I came up with this idea of actually being inside the robot's head, with these sort of four walls around us, and on each wall I wanted displayed old vintage industrial scenes. The song's about AI and how it's kind of taken away jobs, much like it did during the Industrial Revolution. And it kind of provided me actually with an opportunity to convey that idea in a much more literal sense. And it's such a huge contrast to the rest of the video. You know, the rest of the video is it's pretty sort of cinematic, you know, and then this middle 8 part is just suddenly all these effects and all this crazy stuff going on. It's a nice break in the middle of the song, you know, which I think actually worked out better in the end than I think it would have if we'd done it how I originally intended. So hooray for happy accidents. And then I guess the last piece of the puzzle was putting in the sound effects for the beginning sequence. So I enrolled the help of my son Noah, who goes under the name Spider Piece Audio Labs, and he did a cracking job. You know, I wanted something really subtle. You know, I kind of wanted it to sort of underline the silence of this post-apocalyptic world, and yeah, he didn't let me down. He did a really good job. So thanks, Noah. So things I learned whilst making this video, first of all, being prepared is really, really important. Shot lists all the way. Make sure everyone knows what they're doing on the day as well. So make sure they're fully prepped. They know what to bring with them, prop-wise, and costumes and stuff like that. And to kind of know what's expected of them. I learned a ton of stuff about the video editing on top of what I already know. There were a couple of YouTube channels that were really, really helpful in educating me in what I needed to know. And I'll leave some links in the description and point you in the direction of those guys if this is the kind of thing that you're into. What else did I learn? I learnt that I'm not a young man anymore, and jumping off of walls and running up and down stairs is probably not a good idea for me. And I learnt that you need to be prepared to change your plans if things don't work out the way you intend them to. And sometimes actually, you know, moving away from an original idea to something completely different, you know, it can actually be the best thing for what you're trying to create. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it informative, or at least entertaining. While you're here, once again, please subscribe to this channel. It would really, really help me out. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and drop a comment in the box and let me know what your thoughts are. Let's build a community here. That would be lovely. So until the next time, this is Jamie from Team Biscuit Studios signing off. Catch you later. Thanks for watching.